Hi, this is Dr. K from iMedicalSchool, and today we're going to talk about life after residency. In medical school and training, your focus is gaining skills and knowledge to be an effective doctor. But unfortunately, we're not taught how to navigate life after residency. In this series, we'll talk about some key points on finding your first job as a physician out of training. Make sure to check out our free educational content on our YouTube channel, iMedicalSchool. If you like what you hear, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Life after residency, yeah, wow. You've spent countless hours and sleepless nights getting through medical school and residency to now be faced with probably one of the most important decisions you will make, finding your first job as a doctor. Today, we're going to talk about the 3 questions to ask to find your ideal job. Up until this point, from getting into college, medical school, and residency, you've been trying to get into certain schools or programs. Finding your first job as a doctor is completely different. Now you are interviewing practices or hospitals to see if they fit you and whether you will be happy with them. The reason this is so important to remember is that finding a job that makes you happy will set you up for a successful career. Let's go over some basic questions to ask yourself. The first question to ask is, what is your ideal job? Ideally, my job would be to lounge on a private island somewhere, but no one's really gonna pay me to do that. To identify your ideal job, you do have to base it in reality. Think about what type of job you want. We broadly categorize jobs as academic versus private practice versus hospital employed. However, over the past 2 decades, there have been many dramatic changes in the types of physician jobs. In residency, every resident pretty much had the same job, but once you start your career, you'll find out how different your job is compared to the peers you completed training with. Taking all of this into account, it is important to understand whether a more academic-oriented job versus a non-academic job is right for you. Do you want to be involved in research or teaching? You do not have to be in an academic setting to do research or to teach, but in the academic setting, research and teaching benchmarks are part of how you are evaluated. In private practice or private hospital-employed positions, you can do research and teach, but these are generally outside the normal workday and are usually not linked to your salary. In private practice versus hospital-employed positions, there are pros and cons for both areas. In private practice, you'll develop significant autonomy as you should eventually become a part owner of the practice if you're not starting the practice on your own. In private practice, you potentially can have different income streams such as lab services, pathology services, surgical centers, and anesthesia services. On the flip side, you must be business-oriented and dedicate time, in addition to your clinical work, to learn and understand the business aspect of a medical practice that includes understanding reimbursement or billing, payroll for employees, insurance, company contracts, or how you're taxed as a business. Now, your required depth of knowledge may vary depending on how large your group is, but understanding how your business works is key. While it may seem like a lot of work, the independence and feeling of owning or being a partner in your business can be quite rewarding. Hospital-employed positions have the advantage of being able to do clinical work without really worrying about the business side nearly as much. In addition, you do not need to market your practice as referrals come to you from within the hospital, so you never need to worry about not having patients. On the flip side, there is significant bureaucracy in the hospital system, and this can be good or bad. If you have great administrators like I do at my job, it can make your work really enjoyable. On the other hand, if you have a bad administrative team, it can lead to job dissatisfaction, burnout, and added stress. Fortunately, a lot of hybrid jobs have developed that blur the line between academic and non-academic jobs. So as long as you do your homework, you will find a job that meets your needs. Defining an ideal job is not just about details of the job, but about the environment you'll practice in. Do you want to practice in a city, suburb, or rural setting? Practicing in each environment has its benefits and drawbacks. Not only will each setting present you with different clinical scenarios, but this can also affect compensation. Typically in cities, your compensation will be less relative to the cost of living compared to a rural setting. The cost of living is very important both in how you live day to day and how much you're able to save. The higher the cost of living, the more of your income you will spend on day-to-day expenses. On the other hand, areas with a higher cost of living tend to have more things to do, in addition to many other benefits. So there's always a trade-off. Take a weekend and write down your thoughts on your ideal job and give yourself time about what you really want. The next question is, what do those you care about want? For some of you, when you started medical school and when you finished training, there have been dramatic changes in your personal and family life. For me, I got married and had my first child, so there was a lot to think about when choosing my first job as an attending. It is really important to understand what your significant other and family needs to be happy. To tease out these answers, think about where your family wants to live. Does the type of weather matter? Do you want to be close to family? If your spouse is a physician or has another profession, can they get a job? Is the area a good place to raise children? It is really important to involve your significant other into the job search process to help you find out not only your ideal job, but an environment where your family can also flourish. The last question to ask is, what should I expect from my job? It is really important to understand what to expect for compensation and benefits. What does the average physician in your field make? How does the compensation differ from one setting to another? I remember being driven in a car to an interview dinner and being handed my potential compensation package. At first, the salary was amazing, but when you're in training, any job's compensation can look like a really good deal. Once I did my homework, I had a better understanding of how to judge an offer. This is important to discuss because you do not want to invest time in getting to know a practice or hospital that does not plan on compensating you fairly, so know your worth. Probably at this point in your training, you are getting recruiter emails about potential positions. These can be great resources as the information drops right into your lap to review. Looking at these emails can provide some insight as to what compensation is looking like in your field and what benefits to ask for. Another great resource is those that have recently graduated from your training program. Talking with those that are a year ahead of you will give you credible insight on the mistakes to avoid when searching for a job. Alternative options are looking at journals, as many of them display ads. Lastly, check out sites like PracticeMatch.com, PracticeLink.com, or CareerMD to find more positions and information. Writing down the benefits and details of each job is very useful. Comparing each position using this method will give you a realistic evaluation of what job is right for you. Well, those are the highlights of how to begin your job search as you are leaving residency. Remember, the 3 key steps are to understand what you need in a job to be happy, what your family needs to be happy, and understanding compensation. With these 3 steps, you'll be able to find your ideal job quite easily. In the next episode, we'll talk about contracts and what to look out for. If you have any questions about any of the information, place them down below, and I'll be sure to answer them. If you like our content, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. This is Dr. K, and I'll see you next time.